All right, guys, we're back here on Southeastern 16. Max Barr joins. We're previewing Alabama heading to Madison Square Garden on Saturday to take on St. John's. That game tips at noon Eastern on FS1. We are presented by FanDuel. Max, currently no line over at FanDuel as we record this on Thursday. But seems like Ken Palm and others looking around that 5 or so range. And I know there's some other numbers that are out there already on this one.
Yeah, I think this one will sit right around St. John's -6. St. John's -6. I think there's a few books out there with openings St. John's -6.5, but you're going to get a lot of Alabama injury news throughout the week regarding Latrell Wrightsell, Aiden Holloway, Keaton Bristow. All this news is going to impact the line, so it's probably going to float somewhere around St. John's by 2-3 baskets.
Yeah, injuries have been a theme for Alabama, not even mentioning Jalil Bethea, who's out for a bit. It's been quite a story for the Tide. To start the season, they did get off to a 91-62 start and a win over North Dakota on Monday. And as we kind of talked about after that game, Labaron Philon doing his thing. No surprise there. Alabama got to the free throw line a lot, shot the ball pretty well. But, some other things, I'm sure, as coaches, probably some things they'd like to clean up. But still, London Jemison, good start for him. And Amari Allen, the two freshmen, I think, as we said, Max, for Alabama this season, especially given some of the injury stuff so far. You wanted to see how some of these guys kind of acclimated, those guys off to good starts. And now, you go in, again, we'll see what the injury situation is, and that's why we don't exactly have the full picture just yet. But I think, we look at this Alabama team heading into St. John's and feel like, all right, you got some of these young guys stepping up. You kind of know what to expect with the older guys at this point, and they're going to run the Nate Oats style, and that's how they're going to play.
This is a fascinating matchup. If you're not a fan of this matchup, just watch this game. It's going to be a fantastic game. You've got a St. John's team that is just, I keep coming back to that word, fascinating. They played so many different lineups. You get a little bit of Dillon Darling at the point. You get a little bit of Ian Jackson. You get a little bit of Oziah Sellers. Even a little bit of Bryce Hopkins bringing the ball up the court, initiating the offense. Very unusual team. It's very hard to put, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 positional categories for St. John's squad. You bring in Dylan Mitchell to kind of throw him into that, power forward RJ Lewis kind of role. Much more physical though. He had a block and 4 steals and not that long of minutes, so he changes the physicality dynamic of the St. John's front court, and then all new faces in the back court. Just a really fun team for college basketball. And if you guys know Nate Oats, of course it's fun to watch. So this is one, even if you're not a fan of either of these two teams, this is one of the most interesting games of all of November, just to try to learn about both of these teams.
Yeah, the Red Storm beat Quinnipiac 108-74 to start their season, and again, no surprise, both of these teams be sitting here right now in the top 20-ish in terms of tempo, average offensive possession length, all that stuff. To start things off, I watched actually a good portion of the game for the Red Storm, and it was just back and like they're just gliding down the floor, Max. They're just getting down there, easy buckets, and they're just they're big guys, run the floor well, and all that. So yeah, I mean it's hard not to be impressed with St. John's on that side in terms of their lineup that they're going to sport out this year. Really, again, they're going to get after it, and it makes for a game where you've got a lot of star power here. Ejiofor, obviously, we know what the expectations are for him. You mentioned Dylan Mitchell, and just the stat line he put up there, and just so many different ways. And I think this probably applies for both, maybe more so St. John's and Alabama, but at least early on, it feels like you just have a team, just so many ways they can beat you. And I think that's kind of one of the things that stands out for me with the St. John's roster. If you go down just from a skill perspective, they've just got so many guys who you feel like, man, at any time that they're just multiple guys who can step up and really, you look back and say, yep, that's the guy that beat us today, because that's just kind of the impressive part of this St. John's roster.
Yeah, shot a good ball from 3 too. Not a ton. Don't expect this team to shoot a ton, but 8 of 19 from 3, 42%. After the shooting last year, that has got to be a breath of fresh air. A nice little, okay, we're going to make some shots for the Johnny's fans. Obviously, different opponent, but this is an Alabama team that is going to have to take away some of this star power? Is it going to be, you're going to have to pick and choose your spots, because you're going to have lineups out there for St. John's where you got Zuby, you got Dillon Mitchell, you got Bryce Hopkins, you got Ian Jackson. It's going to have to be a full team effort, and that's where, Blake, I think a sneaky little storyline in this game might be Alabama's size. Sneaky tall team, fourth tallest team on average height in college basketball. In that, you don't want to put too much like minute. This guy played 30 minutes in the first game. They were blowing him out, so of course he played more. But like 6'8" Amari Allen, 6'8" London Jemison, 6'6" Davion Hannah. This is an Alabama team that's not going to play a single player under 6'4", and in a game where you're going to have to play true 1 through 5 versatile switchable defense, this is an Alabama team that has the height to do so.
Well, and that's a great segue, because I think, look, this game to me is probably decided very clearly. What are you getting out of Aiden Sherrill and Bo Bowen, right? They're the two guys who started the North Dakota game. Like you said, you don't want to read too much into the minutes. Sherrill played 20, Bowen played 17. Then we talked about how Jemison came off the bench, played 24. Williamson plays 14. But I think that's it, right? I mean, it's a big test going up against this front court, which is just outstanding in terms of what you have to do to be able to be successful against this St. John's team. And so I think that's it. And, that's not unlike anything we talked about. We did the way too early preview on this game, however long ago it's been. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you we said the same thing. It was all about, what are you going to get from Alabama's front court? Because I feel like that was the biggest question we had about the Tide coming into the season. And I don't know that we can completely answer any of those just yet after one game. But, I think that's it. Like you said, the size is there, and it's just what can they do to disrupt some of the things that St. John's wants to do? Because like we said, we've got two teams who are going to get up and down the floor here. And so, yeah, I'm fascinated by that storyline.
Nate Oats directly challenged Taylor Bowen in his rebounding. He said, Houston Millette is out-rebounding you right now. That should not happen. Go watch Houston's tape. And direct quote, go watch Houston Millette's tape and see how he gets his hat in there on offensive rebounds. You need to rebound better. So I'd be interested to see how's TBB's aggression. Some quick updates on other injuries for Alabama, because, boy, do they have a lot. Keaton Bristow is probably the most important in this matchup, particularly just because of his physicality and what he can bring. Nate Oats said a few days, we're recording this on Thursday. He said this on Monday, and we haven't gotten an update since. So bear with me if stuff has changed by the time you see this. But Bristow, Aiden Holloway, and Wrightsell are all day-to-day true 50-50 questionable tags. Obviously, we know Latrell Wrightsell and Aiden Holloway are going to bring that outside shooting, but they still have enough of it even without him. Keaton Bristow, if he's playing or not playing, that could have a huge impact on this game, because, Blake, if you have a guy like TBB, even or Amari Allen, freshman playing at MSG for the first time, one of these guys getting foul trouble, if you can bring in Keaton Bristow, huge. If you don't have him, now we're looking at lineups we haven't really seen yet. So keep an eye on that Bristow news, and then obviously it's going to make an impact for Wrightsell and Holloway.
Yeah, that's a big storyline without question in this game. Let's jump into our picks and kind of analysis on how we think this is going to play out, Max. Before we do, remember, we are brought to you by GameTime Sidekicks, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. Every SEC school is there, over 350 more universities as well. Everything from stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce bottles, and shaker cups. If you want to get 20% off over GameTime Sidekicks, you can do it with SE16. That's the code, SE16, 20% off over at GameTimeSidekicks.com. As you said, Max, as we record this on Thursday, it seems like that line's going to settle at 5 or 6, something like that. A lot of that could be dependent on who plays and who doesn't play for Alabama. We don't know the answer to those questions just yet, so maybe, if we did this on Saturday morning or 5 minutes before the game, we may have different opinions on how we could see it play out, but we have to go with what we know right now. Where are you headed for this pick?
Yeah, I'm going to cut right to the chase. I'm going to go with the Johnnies playing in Madison Square Garden here, and I'll tell you why. I'm leaning on experience here, right? You got a bunch of injuries for Alabama. Practices have not been full participation, and you have one of the younger high major teams right now in Alabama, especially without Latrell Wrightsell. Yeah, they're only going to play 3 total upperclassmen if these injuries hold right now. That'll be Houston Millette, Williamson, the big man, and Bull Bowen. That's it. Everyone else, sophomore or freshman. St. John's going to have 4 seniors in their starting lineup. And just in they're going to have more seniors in their starting lineup than Alabama will play upperclassmen the whole game if these injuries hold. So I'm going to lean on some experience early in the season when Alabama is probably still figuring some things out. Should be a great one, though.
Here's my prediction. Remember, I think someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I have no doubt. But I think the only time, as we looked it up, that Nate Oats and Rick Pitino have squared off was that game in the 2021 NCAA tournament, I believe it was. Alabama won that game 68-55. Here's my bold prediction. It's not going to be 68-55, folks. I think both teams are scoring a few more points. Of course, that was Alabama versus Iona, not Alabama versus St. John's. But I did want to throw that out there to tell you. I think there's going to be a bit more scoring here. I think Labaron Philon will have a Labaron Philon type game. I could certainly see it be one where maybe he just goes off, and maybe one of the reasons why Alabama doesn't win is because some other guys struggle, and yet he is still able to kind of get his. I'm going to pick St. John's too. I just think that, again, this is a team that is built for, and I know people in our SEC universe are going to go back to what happened to St. John's against Arkansas in the NCAA tournament, and there will be people say, well, we told you so. They weren't a team that was built for the long run. I think this St. John's team this year is built for the run to the Final Four, more so than the one last year. And I know what that team's record was, completely understand, but we pointed out throughout that season, right, about how, look, it was a big contrast in their defensive performance and what you're going to get consistently in their offense. I don't know that we're going to have those same questions this year with St. John's, and I'm not just overreacting to a 108, output against Quinnipiac, but I just think right now, like you said, with the injury situation with Alabama, we have a few more knowns with St. John's, and that's why, again, you're going to see the line probably set more than maybe, even a couple baskets in St. John's favor in this game. So we'll see how it plays out. Again, the biggest storyline is going to be actually who plays for Alabama, and don't have great sense on that as we're recording here on Thursday. So, again, guys,
also,
check
real
out
quick,
what else you got.
It may or may not be true that Blake has Big Zuby on his fantasy team.
I did not mention that, but yes, I do have him on my fantasy team, and, well, I have to kind of lean into him having a big game here. So,
there you go.
But, hey, it's just fantasy sports. Come on, it doesn't mean anything. It means everything. I'll tell you what else means everything, Max. That's our friends at the Yearly Company. If you want to go buy some jewelry, you can do that. Nashville-based fine jewelry, built on tradition, designed for meaning. Each piece handcrafted from solid 14-karat gold and natural gemstones. Made to measure for perfect fit, backed by a lifetime guarantee. Every Yearly Company bangle, custom size. So knowing your size is the most important step before you order. If you're a husband out there, want to get some holiday shopping in early, you need that sizing kit. You can get 100% off. It's free if you use our code SC16KIT over the Yearly Company, SC16KIT, K-I-T, 100% off the sizing kit at checkout. Also, if you need a new phone case or any accessories to go along with it, ROKFORM, ROKFORM.com, the world's strongest magnetic phone case. Extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock, secure mounting, SEC25 for 25% off over there, SEC25. 25% off at ROKFORM. We appreciate you guys watching. Give us your score predictions in the comments. Alabama and St. John's, Madison Square Garden. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. On a Saturday at MSG. Wake up, watch some basketball. Give us your score predictions in the comments. Who do you think is going to win? Also, hit subscribe, hit the like button, turn on your notifications. We'll be reacting to this game on Saturday, probably Saturday night, maybe not immediately after.
Yeah.
So come in, hang out with us on Saturday night as we react to everything going on in SEC basketball and anything notable in college basketball on a fun Saturday. So, again, appreciate you guys watching as always. Thanks as always to our friends over at FanDuel for sponsoring the channel. And we will talk to you soon here at Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel.